We are now happy to have two more eminent panelists to join us on the dais. We have Jaume Dubois from GovStack and Nico Lück from GovStack and GIZ. They will talk about MOSIP as GovStack identity building block, and they will examine how MOSIP can be used as a building block in the GovStack Sandbox. I will hand it over to the two of them. Thank you.
We're going to introduce you to the GovStack initiative. GovStack is a multi-stakeholder initiative with prestigious members. One prestigious member is the ITU, International Telecommunication Union, which is a standardization body. We have also GIZ, which is Development Agency of Germany. And we have also Digital Impact Alliance, which is a UN body also, which is promoting digitalization around the world. And so GovStack is an initiative which is aiming to accelerate the digital transformation of government, because we have studied a lot of government stacks from around the world, Estonian stack, UK stack, India stack, and we try to collect the best practices, and we try to build all that in a specification. I will let Nico, which is ready now, to go on the presentation. Okay, so I will go on. And so the idea is that we have all these very good initiatives. So for example, we have worked with MOSIP team from India. We have worked also with Ukrainian team because they have a very interesting mobile wallet application. We are working with Estonia on X-Road because they have this interoperability system. And so the idea is that we can build build some specification and some guideline so that every country can benefit of this work very quickly, not having to do all the study and try every application. Okay? And so basically, GovStack is going to be a set of specifications that the country can apply in order to build their own stack. When we do some training on GovStack, we always show different stacks that are existing around the world. So if you have a look to what Mexico has, to what Ukraine has, Estonia has, UK, Singapore, you will see in fact that they are always using the same pieces, the same modules. They always have an identity piece, they will always have a payment piece, they always have a portal. And these are what we call the building block of the GovStack approach. And so I started to introduce about these different components that we retrieve in each and every government stack, which are basically the infrastructures they use to digitalize their services. And you will retrieve always the same one. And so this is what we call the building blocks, like Lego blocks.
Thanks to you all. Thanks, Jaume, for kicking us off and introducing us to the GovStack initiative. Happy to be here at this conference. And Jaume already introduced us to the founding partners first, but who's being on the stage at the moment? It is Jaume Dubois, lead of the working group of identity. We will tell you later what is a working group in our initiative. And me, Nico Lück, as an owner of the so-called sandbox, so testing environment we built up for testing our so-called building blocks or specifications. Happy to reach out also later on. And you see here also the initiatives which formed the GovStack initiative as founding partners, but it's not only a multi-stakeholder initiative, it's also an open source initiative. We are building up on many volunteers, over 100 individuals which were working with us on our mission. And the mission is to accelerate the digital transformation of countries. So helping and supporting countries in digitalizing their e-services, so the services from governments to citizens. And our solution is here not software, but a lot better. Our solutions are specifications, so descriptions, how this software should look like, because the assumption is on the market, there are already enough software solutions out there. But whoever did already a planning or a procurement of software systems, the difficult part is, what do you want actually? what are the functionalities you would want as an ID building block, for example. So what we did is we specified different software components in terms of what are functionalities which should be inside of these software components and building blocks. And we did this together with a huge amount of individuals, experts from around the world on different fields of expertise coming together, writing down the specifications. And everything we produced is open source. So all the text and also the code we produced is on GitHub and Gitbook available. Everything is available and can be changed. And we built on best practices. So we invited countries and people from countries who were very successful in these digitalization procedures and where we can learn from to build these specifications. Now, our talk will be on the GovStack approach or the building block approach in general, and Jaume will guide us through that. And since we are here at the MOSIP Connect conference, especially on one of these building blocks out of the by now 16 we have, identity. And afterwards, I will demo you our sandbox, so how we used, in this case, MOSIP in an actual implementation based on our specifications. And as the last point, also to all of you here in the room, call for cooperation with everyone, be it from government or from private sector side. So over to you.
Thank you, Nico. Okay, so we explained what is GovStack, we explained what is building block, and Nico explained also that we have some specifications, that we have some open source. So the objective is to build a digital public infrastructure based on these blocks, right? And so what we are doing, in fact, in the work group, we are doing the specification. So that's outside of the building block. What are the functions? How the building blocks are going to interact? What are the APIs? What are the messages they have to send together? Once we have done the specification, there are some software that can come and implement the specification. For example, MOSIP is implementing the specification of the ID building block. Okay, so it's a two-step approach. First, we specify according to the best practices, to the best standard. We don't invent a standard where there is already a standard. We just document it, right? And after, we have done some procurement as part of the GovStack to build this sandbox, so we can have an ID building block, we can have a payment building block, and so on. Okay? And so the country will do the same. They will certainly reuse our specification, and after they will select their software. They can use the one we select, or they can use another one. It's not mandatory. Yeah. Okay, and so the idea is, in fact, that you can have, let's say you have several sectors. Education sector is having a system. Healthcare sector is having a system. Agriculture sector is having a system. In fact, what you will see is that you will have some flows of processes, but you will always use the same building block. So here, the idea is that you don't have identification here, identification here, identification here. You have one identity building block that you are using across the sector, across the services, across the programs. One unique component. So you don't have to invest several times on the components, but you are investing only once. I will come on this. So the idea is that instead of having siloed investment, you see here we have a payment, here we have a payment, here we have a payment, is that instead we try to mutualize these elements which are duplicated. Okay, and so here is the idea is that the goal is to build an infrastructure. So government is building an infrastructure thanks to this building block, and these are the solution. The more you have building blocks, and the less you spend time to build a solution, because what you have to do is just implementing your business logic based on the building block. Okay? And so depending of what is your, no, I will go back to the next previous one first. Okay, so what are the building blocks finally? We have some building blocks that are providing users capability like identification of person. Registration is how you can apply to a service online. Messaging is how you can interact with a citizen. Payment, for managing some payment. Digital signature is also important. And consenting. Okay, so these are all the things that the user can do.
After we have what is the orchestration part with the workflow, how you can change the different steps of a process. Scheduling is whenever you have some events that can happen. For example, a kid is reaching 18 years old, so there is a scheduling for it. We have the information mediator, which is how you can perform some interoperability in between different systems of the government. You know probably about X-Road, so it's what corresponds to this. And the digital registries, how you enable interoperability with registries. GIS is about location and data, right? And so that's our portfolio so far. We are working now on service design. So how do you design services portal involving the different building blocks? And we are starting also on the digital wallet, which is another form of, let's say, storage. Okay, now, no. So just these slides to say, you can have all your building blocks in your government platform. You can choose the open source that we propose, that we have in the catalog as compliant, or you can choose your own. And depending of what is your case, for example, if you are an NGO, like you have or GPD, GPI, like we have OpenCRVS, we have Alina in the room. So OpenCRVS could leverage the payment feature. They could leverage the ID feature, so they don't have to register the people. They can directly support that, right? Okay. So talking about the ID building block, that's the principle of ID building block. The objective is to have an approach of identity that can be either centralized, either decentralized, either federated. We want it to be technology agnostic, and we want it to support different identity providers possible. In terms of APIs and features, there are all the ID verification services and KYC. So this is how you verify identity of a person, on how you can collect some attribute from this person. For example, opening a bank account, subscribing to a SIM. There is also part which is related to credentials. Credentials, that's the ID card, that's the verifiable credentials that we see now. And all the ID management, how do you onboard the person? How do you manage its identity? So basically what the role that ID building block is playing in the GovStack is that is creating the link between a real person and the digital world. So once you onboard the person into the ID building block, then you get access to all the features that are in the GovStack. Authentication, digital signature, sharing of type payment, and so on. And then you can build services on top of it. So finally, identity building block is bringing the super digital power to a person. So once the person is onboarding, thanks to the GovStack building block, they will have access to all this kind of feature. So they can, you can deliver services, you can interact with the population, you can pay, you can authenticate, etc. Okay, this one I will skip. This one we have seen. So we have performed several waves. The first wave was to define the overall vision. The second wave in 2023 was about having the authentication and the KYC mechanism, and be capable to have a link between a foundational ID system and sectoral system. So how do you create the link between foundational ID and sectors? Then we have worked on the onboarding. This was also in common with MOSIP. How you can onboard in different manners, like a first-time enrollment, or you can update an ID, you can migrate a database, you can migrate an existing document into the ID building block, so you can facilitate the onboarding. And now we are starting on the wallet. That's really under process. So how we can leverage the wallet, and so having maybe the identity data in a very specific storage, which is a wallet that you can use in different ways. So that's really starting something that we are starting now. And now we go to the sandbox. So now we have seen the ID building block specification, and now we're going to see the sandbox.
Thanks, Jaume. Yeah. Going back to the overall picture, what does GovStack offer? And this is just a screenshot from our webpage. We have 4 different areas, and what you just mainly heard is the GovSpec area. So this is the part where we build up our community and specify different building blocks like the identity building block and the functional scope around these. But there are also some more. We will talk about now about GovTest, but maybe 2 sentences on GovLearn, which is our area for e-learning or on-site trainings for and with countries together about a certain architectural approach, about the building blocks, about service design, and very other topics in the e-government field. And there is the Gov Exchange, which we are building up right now, because we are an initiative with these specifications which are matching between the demand of governments and the supply, so the software solution providers. And in the Gov Exchange, we're building up the marketplace of offering services and products which fit to these specifications and to this approach to build up here a matching between the supply and demand side. Now we will talk about GovTest. And GovTest is our area where we build up a system, a sandbox, a test environment on our own based on the specifications our working group came up with. And in this procedure, usually a government has, and we had these as well, several challenges. And we not only want to demonstrate the end product, but the way how we get there and the possible solutions, how to overcome some hurdles. I mean, there are a bunch of out there, but maybe just mentioning 3 ones. For example, the challenge is the functional scope of a certain building block or certain software component. So yes, an ID system, but what does it actually entail? It's very fuzzy if you start with this. And the solution is here, the specifications our working group produced. So they give you an example of what an ID building block can look like. You can, of course, adapt this, but it is a start. It is a start for planning and for going further to, at one point, to procurement. Another challenge is, okay, how to then integrate these software components, these building blocks in your system. How can you access these, and what are integration scenarios? And here, our architecture specifications with different scenarios and different API specifications also give you more guidance on how you can build up the architecture consisting of different building blocks. And one thing we mainly discovered in implementation are the diverse ways of actually deploying and configuring different software components, might it be called DPGs, open source software, DPIs, however you would call them. They're usually very different on how to configure, so it's very difficult to get a really good DevOps procedure with all these. And here we took a step to make common configuration and deployment procedures in the project. So there are also a lot more challenges, but there are a few solutions. We used our own guidances to actually went to the market and, similar to governments, do planning, do a tender, possibly some customization and deployment and integration. And when we went out with public tenders with these specifications to the market, we got these solutions for the data exchange layer for this building block, X-Road. For the payment building block, MyForce, and for consent, so managing consent of citizens, the solution iGrant, and of course, as mentioned, for identity MOSIP. And we got service providers responsible for implementing this together with one system integrator in our test environment, and in some cases to customize here and there. Customizing could mean changing or adding a module, could mean adding a smaller application on the side or in front of having an adapter which is translating the API call. So it has very variations what customizing can mean. But in this journey of building the system, we have now the solution, we have our service providers, they are contracted, we build like a reference system. This is our architecture diagram of one of our use cases, and you see here that in the blues we have building blocks or software components. On the left side you have MOSIP because it has direct contact with the user or direct user interface, direct contact with the actor, with the user. And on the right side, you see the different other building blocks we procured. They are connected via X-Road, so the data exchange layer. And why this architecture? Because you have these building blocks integrated into one backbone, basically. But for each service you create, for example, for each government service, from a government to the citizens, you create then a front end where citizens click through, and for each service a back end which is orchestrating the API calls. So, for example, I need the information XYZ from a certain building block in the system. And now, if you have this set up, this backbone, it is easier to scale later, because you don't develop each and every time an application, but you just add in the architecture again this light blue parts, so smaller application just for this one service orchestrating the API calls. So it is a lot easier to scale with this architecture. Or on the right side, you'll see that here you exchange one or the other building block for whatever reason might come into the future. So you want to be modular, you want to be flexible in the future to be prepared whatever comes. And I now want to show you this on a live system. So that's why I'm tapping out here. Going to our sandbox page. Here we are on our website, and every one of you can, of course, access this. Here I'm clicking on Gov Test, and here you see there are two offerings. One is the Gov use case simulation. I welcome everyone to click on this, and this is a really nice visualization of one use case. You click through it from a perspective of a civil servant, from a perspective of a citizen, and it tells you on the right side in the context menu which building blocks are implemented in this step of the use case, in this part of the service, and how they are interconnected with each other. The sandbox is a solution which we, as I just described with the architecture, which we dedicate for technical teams, for the teams who actually implement, for the architects, for the developers, for the service designers. So make examples how to do this in practice. If we click now onto this sandbox page, we land on Gitbook, and I will quickly guide you through it. You see here on the left side the menu, Explore the Stack, where we describe how we not only build up these different software components, building blocks, but also the other layers. How does the architecture look like? How is the infrastructure? How is the DevOps procedures? So a lot more guidances on how to build up the whole holistic system. And then once above is a follow methodology section. They are for these teams consisting of, as I said, developers, user experience designers, service designers. They are learning pathways, how to hands-on learn the architecture approach and the building block scopes and so on. There are also a do-it-yourself section where there are various ways of how to reproduce this system, this architecture in your local environment, and to, as a digital team, test around and play around with it. And the service design best practice is a documentation how we went from the idea, we need this one service, this we did with the partner country of Djibouti together, to the end of how we implemented this in a front end. So how to be very user-centric, how to model the processes, and how to design it in the best user experience way. And on top, you have the core, which are the demos. So here we demonstrate different parts. In the use case high school certificate, we demonstrate the methodology. So what I just described of how do I get from a goal, I need this use case, to the actual mapping, what building blocks do I need to use, what is the user experience, what are the wireframes, and so on. In the construction permit demo, we show best practices of how do you design your user interface very user-friendly. So we have a UX and UI building block giving some patterns how to most user-friendly design your front end. And what I wanted to show you, because here it is relevant for MOSIP, the integration of MOSIP is the social cash transfer, a use case where it's about a government sending money to citizens because of a certain reason. And here we are scrolling down in this page. Here are some features which are demonstrated in this demo, and then there is the access point. And everything you find here on these pages are publicly available. So everything is on GitHub. Every code we developed, everything can be found here. If you scroll down, there are a lot more GitHub repositories you can access. And here I'm now quickly taking the role of a civil servant and accessing the demo, being here in the user interface, the thing you saw earlier in the architecture diagram as light blue, logging in, and here you see the familiar face of eSignet, of MOSIP. I'm logging in, and we are now forwarded to the IDE building block, and after logging in and giving our consent, we are authenticated, and now as a public official, we have here now this service where our task is to enroll candidates. And if I click on enroll candidates, this is triggering an API request to first the registry building block, which has the list of all the candidates which should be enrolled in this program. And you see here also on the side in green the consent, which is mentioning, does this person give consent to sharing the data? So already 2 building blocks here integrated. If I click now on this first person, I want to enroll this person, again get information from the registry building block, and here in this case we got from a different block called OpenIMIS, also an open source solution, the benefit packages where I can enroll this person. So now I'm enrolling this person and can enroll it. There is for that role, this demo is over. There is now a new role, the payment officer, where I issue now to the enrolled person the payments and using therefore the payment building block. I think it's too long to go through all of these right now. You can do it yourself. It is publicly available. Click through it or watch the YouTube video below where we guide through this demo. And the beauty is that once you have all the building blocks being in your system, you can now add more and more use cases reusing the same APIs and functionalities. Now trying to restart here the presentation. And as one last point, that's too far. One last point, the call for cooperation. We see the GovStack initiative as I mentioned, a broker between demand and supply. That's why we also rely on partners to work on this approach, on this mission, on this vision together with us. And you see here on the left side for countries and donors incorporating the GovStack specifications, being inspired for their own digital systems they build up. And we have already 17 countries we work with in terms of either being workshops and deep dives in the specifications or being also prototypes, so services being implemented. On the right side, that's what we are building up right now. And also here, a call for cooperation with us is for all service providers or product providers to test their products on testing.govstack.global against our specifications and being listed as, to a certain degree, aligned to the specifications, and then open up the market for governments to access these solutions. So making the market more transparent together with GovStack, managing supply and demand, and yeah, bring value to governments together. So thanks for you and for participating.